Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. In just the past few days, America has bid farewell to some truly extraordinary individuals, legends whose influence has shaped our culture, inspired countless lives, and will continue to echo through generations. Today, we pay tribute to their remarkable journeys, celebrate their timeless achievements, and reflect on the legacies they've left behind. If their stories have ever touched your heart, I invite you to honor them by liking this video, a small gesture to help keep their memory alive. Now, let's begin this heartfelt remembrance. On August 5th, 2025, the world bid farewell to Jane Etta Pitt. She wasn't a celebrity, but her influence was profound. As the mother of Brad Pitt, she was a lifelong educator and the soul of a family that helped shape one of Hollywood's most beloved actors. In Missouri, Jane served as a school counselor, living with kindness, purpose, and quiet strength. She raised her children not just through lessons, but through example, creating special days for her grandchildren, simple, joyful traditions that made each child feel truly seen and deeply loved. While her son's fame echoed across the globe, Jane remained grounded, steady, and humble. She helped launch the Jane Pitt Pediatric Cancer Center, extending her legacy beyond family into the lives of those who needed hope. Jane may not have walked the red carpet, but to those who knew her, she was always center stage. She listened. She gave. She loved. Her family's final words weren't about her image, they were about her presence, strong, gentle, and full of grace. Jane Etta Pitt didn't leave behind fame. She left something far more enduring: unconditional love, quiet resilience, and a warmth that will never fade. On August 6th, 2025, the music world lost one of its greatest innovators, Etta Palmieri. A Latin jazz legend, Grammy winner, and master of the piano with fire in his fingers. For over 60 years, Etta didn't just play music, he transformed it. In 1975, he became the first Latino artist to win a Grammy for the Son of Latin Music, a historic moment for salsa and Latin culture. He recorded nearly 40 albums, each one bold, creative, and alive. From the powerful rhythms of Harlem River Drive to his Grammy-winning collaboration with Tito Puente, Masterpiece, Etta kept pushing music forward. In 1961, he formed La Perfecta, swapping trumpets for trombones, a deeper, raw, electric sound that helped define salsa dura, the hard-hitting New York street style. He earned 8 Grammy Awards, a Lifetime Achievement Honor, and national recognition from the Library of Congress and the NEA Jazz Masters. But Etta Palmieri was more than a pianist. He was a voice for a community, a cultural force, a bridge between worlds. His music carried both the joy of celebration and the weight of struggle, wrapped in rhythm and soul. Even in his later years, he kept playing, creating, inspiring. When he passed, artists around the world paid tribute, not just to a legend, but to a teacher, a pioneer, a giant. Etta Palmieri didn't just leave behind albums. He left behind a legacy of boldness, brilliance, and the belief that music, real music, can change everything. If his music ever moved you, made you dance, or stirred something deep, honor him now. Leave a comment with 88, his age and the number of keys on the piano he made sing, or simply type RIP Etta Palmieri. Let's fill this space with love, rhythm, and gratitude for a legend who never stopped playing. On July 26, 2025, the world said goodbye to one of the sharpest minds in music, Tom Lehrer. A mathematician, satirist, songwriter, and a man who made millions laugh while making them think. He didn't write hundreds of songs. He didn't need to. With just under 50, Tom created a body of work that became legendary. From the Elements to the Vatican Rag, from Pollution to National Brotherhood Week, he turned piano keys into scalpels, cutting through hypocrisy, politics, and social norms with wit sharper than most headlines. In the 1950s and 60s, his albums spread like wildfire, passed hand to hand by fans who couldn't believe someone could be this funny, this smart, and this bold. At the peak of his fame, he walked away. He chose to teach math, live quietly, and stay curious. In 2020, he released all his songs into the public domain for free. "I just don't care anymore," he said, but the world did, and still does. Tom Lehrer wasn't just a comedian with a piano. He was a mirror, reflecting the absurd, the tragic, and the ridiculous with a grin. He reminded us that intelligence can be funny, that satire can be kind, and that a good song can say what essays never could. Tom Lehrer made us laugh, then made us stop and think. Now, as the world spins a little more quietly, his music remains, still sharp, still relevant, still brilliant. A voice from a piano bench reminding us, there's power in truth and even more in humor. In August 2025, the wrestling world lost a storm. Hulk Hogan, the yellow and red icon, the immortal champion, the man who turned Hulkamania into a global phenomenon. He wasn't just a wrestler. He was a cultural force. With booming promos like "What You Gonna Do?" and his signature flex, Hogan sold out arenas, headlined pay-per-views, and turned wrestling into entertainment. In the 80s and 90s, he was the face of WWF and later WCW. He headlined WrestleMania I and All In. He held the WWF Championship 6 times, electrifying audiences in matches against Andre the Giant, Randy Savage, and The Rock. Outside the ring, Hogan crossed into mainstream movies, TV, endorsements, and countless guest appearances. He launched the first major wrestler talk show on MTV, published an autobiography, and starred in sitcoms. For many, he was their first hero. A kid who saw him on screen suddenly believed he could be big too. But there was more than flexed muscles and loud cheers. Fans remember Hogan for his resilience. His battles inside and outside the ring showed his humanity. He spoke openly about recovery, personal setbacks, and the price of fame. At the height of his career, he turned heel in WCW and launched the NWO, reinventing himself and reshaping the business. He faced controversy, made mistakes, but always returned to the ring bravely, unapologetically, and with a renewed connection to the fans. When he passed, the wrestling community paused. Colleagues, posters, and wrestlers from every era shared memories of his kindness, mentorship, and infectious energy. He wasn't perfect, but he was genuine. Hulk Hogan didn't leave behind just championship belts or action figures. He left behind a movement. He made people believe. He taught confidence. He made wrestling come alive. His roar may fade, but the thunder, the legacy, still echoes in the cheers and chants of "Hogan, Hogan," that fill the halls of wrestling history. He reminded us that in the ring and in life, it's not just the size of the man, it's the size of his heart and spirit. Hulk Hogan may have left the ropes, but Hulkamania lives on, louder than ever. Alan Bergman, the Oscar-winning lyricist behind some of the most timeless songs in film and television, passed away at the age of 99. He wasn't a household name, but his words were everywhere, in love stories, in movie theaters, in melodies that made us cry, remember, and feel. Born on September 11, 1925 in Brooklyn, New York, Alan knew by age 10 that he wanted to write songs. And for the next 8 decades, he never stopped. After studying at the University of North Carolina and UCLA, he began his songwriting career. In 1958, he married fellow lyricist Marilyn Keith. Together, they became one of the most iconic songwriting duos of the 20th century. Their work extended beyond the silver screen. They wrote theme songs for shows like Maude, Good Times, and Alice, simple tunes that became part of daily life for millions. Throughout their career, the Borgmans received 3 Oscars, 4 Emmys, and 2 Grammys. In 1980, they were inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. But their greatest achievement was how deeply their work connected with people. After Marilyn passed away in 2022, Alan kept writing. He mentored young songwriters, stayed involved in the creative community, and never lost his love for lyricism. Alan Bergman passed away peacefully at home in Los Angeles, surrounded by family. He is survived by his daughter Julie and his granddaughter. A tribute concert is being planned to honor his life and legacy. Alan didn't need the spotlight, he lit it for others. Through music, he helped us remember, forgive, long, and love. He showed us that a great lyric isn't just heard, it's felt. Though his voice is now silent, his words live on in films, in memories, and in the hearts of everyone who ever listened. Joseph Lovett, a respected television producer and fearless documentary filmmaker, passed away on July 16, 2025, at the age of 80. He was a bold truth seeker who used television not just to inform, but to heal. Over 4 decades, Joseph built a legacy through powerful documentaries and groundbreaking journalism. On ABC's 20/20, he was among the first to break the silence surrounding the AIDS crisis on national television. In a time when few dared to speak, he gave people a voice. He gave pain a name. He gave compassion a platform. In 1989, Joseph founded his own production company to tell the stories that mattered most, stories of struggle, survival, transformation, and truth. His film Going Blind chronicled his personal journey with vision loss, turning vulnerability into strength. Through Inquisition, he helped families reconnect with hidden roots and forgotten histories. He produced more than 35 hours of prime-time television and numerous award-winning documentaries. But his greatest achievements weren't the accolades. They were the lives he changed, the empathy he sparked, and the difficult conversations he made possible. Joseph was openly gay. He lived with glaucoma. And he never hid from the truth. Instead, he used it as a lens, a bridge, a way to connect and to heal. His belief was simple: storytelling can heal. And he lived that belief in every frame, every interview, every scene. He mentored young filmmakers, spoke at universities, and welcomed conversations others were too afraid to start. Even off camera, his voice remained steady, thoughtful, and fiercely compassionate. He challenged the media to do better, to care more, to see the people behind the headlines, to truly listen. Joseph Lovett's legacy lives on through every story he told, every person he helped feel seen, and every act of courage he inspired. He reminded us that truth, when told with empathy, can change everything. And though he's no longer with us, his voice echoes on in the stories that still need telling and in all of us who dare to tell them. Malcolm Jamal Warner, the beloved actor, musician, and storyteller best known as Theo Huxtable, passed away at the age of 54. Born on August 18, 1970 in Jersey City, New Jersey, Malcolm Jamal was named after Malcolm X and jazz legend Ahmad Jamal. Raised in Los Angeles from age 5, he discovered his passion for performance early, landing his first TV role before turning 12 and graduating from the Professional Children's School in New York City. At 14, he captured hearts worldwide as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. 1984-1992, earning an Emmy nomination and becoming a symbol of Black excellence on television. But Malcolm Jamal was never just Theo. He starred in Malcolm and Eddie, Read Between the Lines, Suits, The Resident, and more, constantly evolving, never content in a single role. He directed episodes of The Cosby Show, Kenan and Kel, and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, proving his talent extended far beyond the screen. A multi-hyphenate artist, he released jazz and poetry albums, fronted the Miles Long Band, and co-hosted a podcast that embraced creativity in every form. Tragically, while on a family vacation in Costa Rica, on July 20th, 2025, Malcolm Jamal was swept away by a strong current and drowned. He was 54. He leaves behind a grieving family, including his wife and daughter, and a world mourning the loss of a gentle, generous soul. Colleagues, friends, and fans, including Anthony Mackie, Tracy Ellis Ross, and Angela Bassett, called him a beautiful human being, a mentor, and a friend who always made others feel seen. Malcolm Jamal Warner's legacy isn't just in his roles. It's in the kindness he radiated, the stories he helped tell, and the light he brought to every space he entered. The world has said goodbye to one of the most beloved voices of the 20th century. Connie Francis, the trailblazing pop icon whose music defined an era, passed away on July 16, 2025, at the age of 87. Born Concetta Rosa Maria Francanero on December 12, 1937, in Newark, New Jersey, Connie grew up in a working-class Italian-American family where music was woven into everyday life. From local talent shows to teenage TV appearances, one thing was clear: this young girl had something truly special. Her breakthrough came in 1958 with Who's Sorry Now. The song became an instant classic, not just a hit, but a cultural moment, and it was only the beginning. Connie Francis quickly became one of the most successful female recording artists of her time, with unforgettable hits like Stupid Cupid, Lipstick on Your Collar, My Heart Has a Mind of Its Own, and Where the Boys Are. She dominated the charts and won the hearts of millions. She wasn't just America's sweetheart, she became an international sensation. Connie recorded songs in more than a dozen languages, long before global fame was just a click away. Her voice crossed borders, touched cultures, and connected generations. But behind the spotlight was a woman who faced deep personal struggles. In the 1970s, Connie survived a violent assault that changed her life. She battled emotional trauma, mental health challenges, and periods of isolation. Yet every time she fell, she rose again, stronger, braver, and more determined. She shared her story in memoirs, returned to the stage, and never stopped connecting with fans who saw her as the voice of their youth. In early 2025, just months before her passing, Connie's music made a beautiful comeback. A clip of Pretty Little Baby went viral on social media, introducing her timeless voice to a whole new generation, a reminder that great music never grows old. On July 16th, surrounded by loved ones in Pompano Beach, Florida, Connie Francis passed away peacefully. The world may have lost a star, but her songs, her story, and her spirit will live forever. On August 4th, 2025, the world said goodbye to James Whale, the fearless broadcaster who helped shape the golden era of British late-night radio. He was 74 years old and had battled kidney, spine, and brain cancer with remarkable courage. Born Michael James Whale on May 13, 1951 in Surrey, England, James began his career as a pub DJ. But soon he discovered his true calling, talk radio. In the 1980s and 90s, he became a household name thanks to his sharp commentary, bold style, and unforgettable voice on air. The James Whale radio show broke new ground: live call-ins, heated debates, controversial guests. He wasn't afraid to stir the pot or speak the truth. They called him Britain's first shock jock. But behind the tough exterior was a man who truly listened, a host who gave space to voices often ignored. James wasn't just a voice on the radio, he was a cultural icon. He moved seamlessly between radio, television, and podcasting. Whether at the BBC, ITV, Sky, or most recently Talk TV, his signature energy never faded. In 2000, James was diagnosed with kidney cancer and lost one of his kidneys. But instead of retreating, he stepped forward. He founded Kidney Cancer UK, helping thousands of patients and families. In 2024, his advocacy was recognized with an MBE, an honor he deeply deserved. Even in his final months, he never stopped. He continued recording, broadcasting, and speaking about his illness with honesty and humor. James is survived by his wife Nadine, whom he married in 2021, and by his 2 sons. He was previously married to Melinda Whale, who passed away in 2018. James Whale didn't just talk, he made people listen. He challenged opinions. He sparked change. He stood for something when silence was easier. And through it all, he stayed true to himself, bold, brave, and unapologetic. He changed the face of bodybuilding. He redefined action movies, and he once governed the most powerful state in America. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a name that echoes across sports, cinema, and politics. From Mr. Olympia to the Terminator to Governor of California, his journey is the ultimate story of reinvention, built on discipline, ambition, and a refusal to settle. But before the fame, the wealth, and the power, there was a boy who grew up in a small village in Austria just a few years after World War II. His name was Arnold Ulwa Schwarzenegger. He was born on July 30th, 1947, in the rural town of Thal. Life there was tough. His family lived without modern comforts, no plumbing, no central heat, just cold winters and hard work. His father, while other boys his age played soccer or chased girls, Arnold was scribbling goals on his bedroom wall: become Mr. Universe. Move to America, become a movie star. These weren't fantasies, they were deadlines. His father, Gustav, didn't understand. He wanted a soldier, a police officer, a man of uniform and obedience. Flexing muscles didn't seem like a future, but Arnold didn't argue. He trained silently, ruthlessly. Every drop of sweat became proof that he could shape his own destiny, no matter where he started. Discipline wasn't taught to Arnold, it was carved into him. He learned to show up when no one was watching, to keep going when it didn't make sense, to believe when no one else did. By 15, his body began to transform. But more importantly, his identity did too. He wasn't just Arnold from Thal anymore. He was becoming the architect of his own future. In those early hungry years, in a home with no central heat and little encouragement, a world champion was forming. Not in a gym, not in Hollywood, but in silence, in sweat, and in the stubborn belief that anything was possible. At 18, Arnold found himself in a uniform not of his choosing. It was 1965, and military service in Austria was mandatory. He traded his weights for a rifle, the gym for drill grounds. But even amid the rigid routines of army life, his obsession never wavered. He snuck into the base gym at night, improvising workouts, grinding, dreaming. Then came the opportunity. A junior bodybuilding competition, Mr. Europe, was being held in Germany. For Arnold, it wasn't just a contest. It was destiny knocking. There was only one problem: he was still enlisted. Leaving without permission meant breaking military law. But he went anyway. He escaped the barracks in the dead of night, caught a train, and arrived in Stuttgart with nothing but hope and muscle. On that stage, under the harsh lights, he didn't just compete, he dominated. At just 18, Arnold Schwarzenegger won his first title, Junior Mr. Europe. That victory was more than a trophy. It was validation. Proof that the kid with makeshift weights and impossible goals might actually pull it off. Of course, the army didn't celebrate. He was punished, thrown into military prison for going AWOL. But Arnold didn't regret a thing. That weekend made one thing clear: greatness demands risk, and sometimes the boldest leaps come with the highest price. But for Arnold, it was only the beginning. By his early 20s, Austria had grown too small for Arnold's dreams. He had outgrown the weight rooms of Munich, where he trained obsessively, slept in gym offices, and scraped by on canned tuna and protein powder. He was chasing more than muscles. He was chasing a future only America could offer. And one man held the key: Joe Weider, the godfather of bodybuilding. Weider saw something in the towering Austrian with broken English and unbreakable discipline. He didn't just admire Arnold's physique, he believed in his potential. Weider arranged a visa, provided a modest stipend, and gave him access to sacred ground, Gold's Gym in Venice Beach. It wasn't glamorous. Arnold arrived with a single suitcase, a dream, and little else. No fame, no money, no guarantees. Every rep, every protein shake, every grain of rice was calculated. He trained relentlessly, 7 days a week, carving not just a body, but a persona. The confidence, the smile, the swagger, those were earned in the mirror and on the floor of Gold's Gym. Outside the gym, life was quiet, lonely even. He practiced English alone at night, scribbling vocabulary words in a notebook. He studied American culture, mimicked movie stars, and envisioned himself not just as a competitor, but as a brand. He had no fallback plan. Failure wasn't an option. America, in all its chaos and possibility, was now home. The boy from Thal had arrived, not to visit, but to become. When Arnold Schwarzenegger stepped onto the stage, the world of bodybuilding would never be the same. At just 20 years old, he became the youngest Mr. Universe in history, a record that still stands. But that was only the beginning. He set his sights higher, the crown jewel of the sport, Mr. Olympia. Over the next decade, Arnold claimed that title 7 times, redefining what a champion could be. His physique was unlike anything the world had seen, massive yet symmetrical, powerful yet graceful. But it wasn't just his body that changed the sport. It was his mind. His obsession with form, efficiency, and mind-muscle connection turned the gym into a laboratory. He tested and refined techniques that would become staples in modern training. No wasted movement, no shortcuts, just discipline, precision, and intensity. Offstage, Arnold became the sport's greatest ambassador. Through books like the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding, he translated elite knowledge into accessible wisdom. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to elevate the entire game. Magazines couldn't get enough of him, neither could talk shows. He brought bodybuilding out of dark basement gyms and into the living rooms of America. Arnold wasn't just flexing muscles, he was shaping culture. In his hands, the body became a canvas, a statement, a message to anyone who had ever felt small, powerless, or overlooked. You can build yourself into whoever you want to be. This wasn't vanity, it was vision. And in that vision, he laid the foundation for the modern fitness movement, a movement that continues to echo in every dumbbell lifted and every transformation story told. Long before he conquered Hollywood, Arnold Schwarzenegger was mastering another game, the art of wealth building. While many saw only muscles and medals, Arnold saw opportunity. Behind the scenes, between competitions and training sessions, he was quietly laying bricks for a future that would extend far beyond the gym or the stage. Together with his lifelong friend and fellow bodybuilder Franco Columbu, Arnold began investing in real estate. Small duplexes, apartment buildings, modest homes, properties others overlooked he saw as seeds for growth. They renovated, they rented, they reinvested. By the time Arnold made his first major appearance in a Hollywood film, he had already become a millionaire. It wasn't luck, it was vision. Even as a newcomer in America, with a heavy accent and an unproven career, Arnold understood something most never do: muscle fades. Strategy compounds. He treated every dollar with discipline, every investment with scrutiny, every risk with calculation. He read business books with the same intensity he applied to weightlifting. He studied markets the way he studied anatomy. He didn't wait to be rich from fame. He engineered it from hustle. These early investments didn't just fund his comfort. They gave him freedom to say no, to choose roles on his own terms, to never be desperate in an industry where desperation can break you. Arnold's empire wasn't built in the spotlight. It began quietly, with a handshake deal, a rundown building, and a dream. A dream not just of becoming famous, but of becoming independent. In his own words, money doesn't make you happy, but freedom does. And Arnold was building it brick by brick, long before the world realized he was more than just muscle. He didn't chase roles, he created a genre. The thinking warrior, the man who could crush steel and still care, who could shoot a gun and still crack a smile, who could save the world and still make you laugh. Behind the scenes, Arnold negotiated smarter than most studio heads: back-end deals, merchandising rights, profit shares. He wasn't just acting in blockbusters, he was engineering them. His characters became legends. His catchphrases became pop culture scripture. His box office draws redefined what global cinema could look like. And along the way, he elevated the action genre into something mythic. Arnold didn't just become a Hollywood star, he became an icon, the rare kind whose shadow stretches across generations, continents, and cultures. Because in every role he played, machine or man, soldier or spy, there was a deeper message beneath the spectacle. That strength, when guided by heart, can move more than mountains. It can move people. As Arnold's star rose in Hollywood, he understood something few of his peers did. Success wasn't just about being seen, it was about being remembered. And memory in the modern age is built through brand. He turned his name into more than a signature. It became a symbol of strength, determination, and transformation. Unlike many action stars, Arnold approached his career not just as an artist, but as a strategist. He negotiated for back-end profits, tying his earnings to a film's success. When Terminator 2 shattered box office records, Arnold didn't just earn a paycheck. He took home a fortune, forever shifting how actors approach studio contracts. It wasn't luck, it was foresight. Off-screen, he broadened his reach. He launched fitness videos that brought his training philosophy into living rooms around the world, not to intimidate, but to inspire. He showed millions that aging doesn't mean giving up. It means leveling up in a different way. Recovery became part of his identity. So did transparency. He spoke openly about surgery, therapy, and even mental health. Because to him, strength isn't just what you lift, it's what you carry and how you choose to share it. For all his triumphs, Arnold Schwarzenegger has known the quiet ache of loss. He lost his older brother, Maynard, in a tragic car accident in 1971. They had grown up together in the harsh shadows of post-war Austria. That sudden loss left a scar no spotlight could erase. His father, Gustav, a strict and distant figure, passed away shortly after. Though their relationship had always been strained, Arnold grieved the silence between them, the words never spoken. Years later, the loss that broke something deeper came with the death of Franco Columbu, his closest friend, training partner, and brother in every way but blood. They had lifted each other through life, not just through weights. Arnold described that loss as like losing a piece of myself. But not all wounds come from death. In 2011, a revelation changed the course of his life. News of a child born from an affair shook his family to the core. The public scandal was immediate, but the personal cost ran far deeper. His marriage to Maria Shriver, a woman he deeply respected and loved, unraveled. The divorce wasn't just a legal separation. It was a moment of reckoning, a confrontation with the man in the mirror, stripped of power, pride, and pretense. Arnold didn't run from it. He apologized. He stepped back. And slowly he began the hard work of making amends, not just with Maria and his children, but with himself. In that chapter, something shifted. The man who once built his life on ambition began building something else: understanding, accountability, and purpose. Arnold poured his energy into causes greater than himself: climate action, youth education, and after-school programs. He spoke openly about regret, about learning from failure, not as a lesson in shame, but as a path to growth. Pain became fuel. Loss became legacy. Emotional maturity became the quiet victory behind all the loud ones. In a culture obsessed with eternal youth and invincibility, Arnold Schwarzenegger did something truly radical. He opened up, not just about his victories, but about his wounds. Through it all, Arnold refused to be boxed in by expectations, neither a puppet of Hollywood nor a pawn of party politics. He stood in press conferences, town halls, and Senate hearings, not as the Terminator, but as Governor Schwarzenegger. A man using fame not for ego, but for impact. When he left office in 2011, California was still wrestling with deep structural challenges. But Arnold's leadership had sparked a new conversation, that even in an era of division, it was possible to lead with principle over politics. He brought muscle not to the spectacle of power, but to the service of people. He didn't just rewrite the script of what a celebrity could be. He redefined what public leadership could look like. For most of his life, Arnold's body seemed untouchable, built like steel, moving like a machine. But no one escapes time, not even the Terminator. His first battle came early. In his late 20s, years of training with makeshift weights caused chronic back spasms. He didn't slow down, he adapted. In the 1980s, the wear and tear began to show. Torn biceps, strained shoulders, cracked ribs during movie stunts. Each injury was another message from his body, and Arnold listened. He became one of the first athletes to adopt cutting-edge recovery methods: ice baths at dawn, electrical stimulation, carefully structured rehab routines. But the biggest challenge came in 1997. Doctors discovered he had a congenital heart condition, a bicuspid aortic valve. At 49, he underwent open-heart surgery. It shocked the world. The man who played machines on screen was suddenly human, vulnerable. Yet just weeks later, he was back in the gym, not pushing for records, but showing that resilience isn't about never falling. It's about standing back up. In 2018, another heart surgery, this one unplanned. A routine procedure turned into an emergency. When he woke up, his first words were, "I'm back." Classic Arnold, equal parts grit and humor. As he aged, his approach to health evolved. Gone were the 5,000-calorie bulking days. His diet became cleaner, grilled salmon instead of sausages, oatmeal with almond butter, quinoa, greens, and heart-healthy fats. He still trains, but with wisdom. Lighter weights, more reps, pilates for mobility, walks with his dog Dutch instead of sprints on the beach. And every step of the way, he shares the journey with honesty and humility. He's shown millions that aging doesn't mean giving up. It means leveling up in a different way. Recovery became part of his identity. So did transparency. He speaks openly about surgery, therapy, and mental health, because to him, strength isn't just what you lift, it's what you carry and how you choose to share it. Pain, for Arnold, became fuel. Loss became legacy. And emotional maturity became the quiet victory behind all the loud ones. In a culture obsessed with eternal youth and invincibility, Arnold Schwarzenegger did something truly radical. He opened up, not just about his victories, but about his wounds. In recent years, Arnold has spoken more openly about the tools he now relies on to navigate aging. Not just strength, but softness. He embraced therapy as emotional fitness, a space to confront regret, rebuild clarity, and stay grounded in a world that often demands masks. He turned to meditation, not for spectacle, but for stillness. In the quiet spaces between thoughts, he found a deeper resilience, not the kind that wins titles, but the kind that survives storms. He adapted his diet, becoming a fierce advocate for plant-forward, science-backed nutrition. Not out of vanity, but out of respect for the only body he's ever lived in. As he often says now, we don't stop training because we age faster because we stop training. At over 70, Arnold has become a new kind of icon. Not just for muscle or movies, but for what it means to age with intention. He doesn't hide his wrinkles. He doesn't pretend he's the man he once was. Instead, he embraces who he is now, with humor, humility, and a message that resonates across generations. True strength isn't just about power. It's about purpose. Today, Arnold Schwarzenegger is no longer just a symbol of strength. He is a force for sustainability, knowledge, and hope. Far from the film sets and bodybuilding stages that once defined him, Arnold now channels his energy into building a better world. He hosts annual climate summits that bring together scientists, world leaders, activists, and innovators, not for show, but for solutions. His voice, once used to deliver iconic one-liners, now echoes through halls of policy and purpose. Through his podcast, Arnold's Pump Club, and weekly newsletters, he shares more than health advice. He shares a philosophy, a mindset, a reminder that discipline, kindness, and consistency can change lives from the inside out. His audience now includes millions, not just fans, but followers on a journey toward better living. He's also turning vision into impact, quietly investing in startups focused on clean energy, regenerative agriculture, and forward-thinking technologies that aim to nourish both people and the planet. This isn't retirement, it's reinvention. And it's purposeful. In this chapter, Arnold isn't chasing greatness. He's growing it, nurturing it in others, passing the torch with humility and wisdom. Because the legacy he's building now can't be measured in trophies, ticket sales, or titles. It's measured in lives changed, and in futures made just a little brighter because he refused to stop giving. For all his global fame, Arnold Schwarzenegger's deepest fulfillment now comes from the roles that rarely make headlines: father, grandfather, mentor, quiet giver. He remains closely connected to his children and grandchildren, showing up not just as the larger-than-life icon, but as someone who listens, supports, and loves without condition. In his family, Arnold has found not just belonging, but legacy that breathes. His philanthropic reach has only grown with time. Through foundations and donations, he supports real-life heroes, firefighters, first responders, underprivileged student-athletes, people who give their all for the sake of others. He doesn't just donate money. He shows up, he speaks, he honors their grit. The Arnold Sports Festival, once a niche bodybuilding event, has become a global celebration of strength, resilience, and human potential. Held across continents, it inspires thousands to move, to train, to believe in themselves, regardless of age or background. In every corner of the world, Arnold's name still ignites ambition. And yet, for all his grand achievements, his personal life remains humble. He chooses simplicity over luxury, biking through LA streets, feeding his rescue animals, enjoying meals with friends. But behind that simplicity lies a towering sense of purpose. A man who's never stopped giving back. As Arnold Schwarzenegger steps into the twilight of his journey, he carries with him a philosophy forged through fire. Real strength isn't about domination. It's about direction. His days now begin with bike rides, not boardrooms. He finds joy in feeding his donkey and pony, sketching portraits, and mentoring the next generation. The man once defined by muscles and machines has evolved into a symbol of mindfulness, reflection, and meaningful contribution. He speaks often of purpose, how each of us must find what drives us beyond ourselves. For Arnold, that means giving voice to the voiceless, strength to the weary, and hope to those still building their path. He no longer fights battles on screen. He wages quieter, deeper wars against indifference, against inaction, against giving up. There's no curtain call. No grand finale. Just a man who once reshaped pop culture, politics, and physical ideals, now reshaping what it means to live a good life. In the end, his greatest transformation wasn't from bodybuilder to actor or actor to governor. It was from power to purpose. Arnold Schwarzenegger's story is not just a biography. It's a blueprint. A living testament to what happens when discipline meets vision, when ambition is tempered by humility, and when strength is redefined over time. He didn't just lift weights, he lifted expectations. He didn't just break records, he broke molds. In a world that often tells us to specialize to stay in our lane, Arnold showed us how to evolve. From a boy in post-war Austria to a global icon, he refused to be one thing. He was many. And in being many, he gave permission to millions to be more than what they were told they could be. He taught us that greatness isn't a destination, it's a decision, made daily, in silence, in sweat, in setbacks. He taught us that reinvention isn't betrayal of the past, it's the honoring of it. That to grow is not to abandon who you were, but to build upon it. He taught us that vulnerability is not weakness, it's wisdom. That to speak of pain, of failure, of regret is not to diminish your strength, but to deepen it. Arnold's legacy is not just in the muscles he built or the movies he made, it's in the mindset he modeled. One that says you can start anywhere. You can fall often, you can rise again, and you can keep rising until your life becomes a story worth telling. Arnold Schwarzenegger's life is a saga of transformation, not just physical but philosophical, not just public but deeply personal. He began as a dreamer in a cold village. He became a champion, a star, a leader. But more than that, he became a mirror, reflecting back to us what's possible when we refuse to settle. He showed us that strength is not static, it evolves. That purpose is not inherited, it's chosen. That legacy is not built in moments of glory, but in years of quiet, consistent giving. Arnold's journey reminds us that the most powerful thing you can do with your life is to use it. Use it to lift others, to challenge norms, to heal wounds, to build something that lasts beyond you, and in the end, that's what Arnold has done. He has built a legacy not of fame, but of impact, not of perfection, but of perseverance, not of dominance, but of direction. So as we reflect on his story, let us not just admire it, let us apply it. Let us train not just our bodies, but our minds. Let us lead, not just with power, but with principle. Let us live, not just for success, but for significance. Because if Arnold taught us anything, it's this: you don't have to be born great. You just have to refuse to quit. And in that refusal, in that relentless pursuit of better, we find the true meaning of strength.